In the stillness of your own mind, a quiet truth awaits discovery, one that you have held on to all your life without knowing. The law of assumption is the principle that whatever you assume to be true in the depth of your being will eventually become your reality. Unlike merely wishing or positive thinking, this law asks you to embody your desire, to live in the feeling that it is already accomplished. In the words of mystic Neville Goddard, assume you are what you want to be, and you will become it. This audiobook is a journey into that profound truth, guiding you to shift from wanting to being, from longing to fulfillment. Imagine for a moment standing before a calm, moonlit lake. The surface is so smooth it becomes a perfect mirror of the starry night sky above. Just as the lake reflects the heavens, your outer world reflects the assumptions you gently hold within. This is not a metaphor to simply admire. It is a living principle you can use. Every chapter in this journey will peel back another layer of how your inner state shapes the world you experience. You will come to see that your imagination is not a passive realm of daydreams, but a workshop of creation, the sacred space where you forge the events and relationships of your life. Each principle in this audiobook will reveal a facet of that creative power, and by the end, you will know how to wield it consciously to reshape your reality from the inside out. We will explore how your inner state shapes the world you experience. As you listen, picture yourself in each scenario. Feel the emotions and revelations as if they were your own. I speak to you now as a friendly guide, walking beside you on a winding path through both mystical ideas and practical steps. Poetic wisdom will mix with hands-on practices. You will find short, allegorical stories of ordinary people, perhaps much like yourself, who discover the quiet miracles that happen when they apply the law of assumption. These stories, set in familiar Western backdrops, will illuminate each principle in a way that's easy to relate to. Each chapter will end with a gentle guided practice. These are simple exercises or meditations designed to help you experience the material directly. By actually practicing the feeling of your wish fulfilled or revising a memory, you will begin to awaken the creative power within you. This audiobook is more than information. It's an invitation to transformation. Take a slow breath and allow your imagination to soften. Feel the quiet power that stirs in your chest when you consider that you are the creator of your experience. With an open heart and an open mind, let us begin our journey. Chapter 1. The Power of Inner Speech. Our journey opens with the voice that never leaves you, your inner speech. All day long, a dialogue runs in the theatre of your mind. It comments, it judges, it dreams. These constant mental whispers are far more powerful than most of us realize. Most of us are totally unaware that our inner conversations are the cause of the circumstances of our life, observed Neville Goddard. In other words, the tone and content of that self-talk acts like a magnet, drawing into your world experiences that echo its themes. Consider a morning in the life of a man named Michael. Michael wakes to the shrill beeping of his alarm. His first thought, ugh, another day of pointless meetings and annoying customers. He drags himself out of bed, muttering complaints in his mind about the cramped apartment he can barely afford and the aches in his body. While brushing his teeth, he imagines his boss scolding him, Indeed, he practically rehearses his defensive replies silently in the mirror. By the time Michael steps out the door, his inner speech has already painted the day in gloomy colours. He feels defeated, irritated and powerless, all before anything actually happens. Now imagine, a few blocks away, Sarah starts her own day. The same dawn light filters through her window. Her alarm rings and she takes a moment to stretch and breathe. Her first thought, today is a fresh opportunity. I can handle whatever comes. While showering, she quietly tells herself, I am capable and calm. Good things are unfolding. She visualizes a productive meeting and hears in her mind a colleague thanking her for her contributions. On her commute, she listens to uplifting music and internally affirms, I create my reality. I choose to see the best in this day. Sarah arrives at work feeling centered and hopeful. These two ordinary mornings illustrate the power of inner speech. Michael and Sarah live in the same city, perhaps even work in the same building, but their inner dialogues usher them into very different versions of the day. Michael's inner speech of dread and criticism likely leads to tension and mishaps. Spilled coffee, a hostile client, a tense meeting, fulfilling his grim expectations. Sarah's supportive and optimistic inner speech sets a tone that attracts cooperation, tiny miracles, and a sense of ease. Your inner speech is like the background music in a film, sometimes loud, sometimes subtle, but always influencing the mood of your experience. If the music is ominous, even a sunny scene feels uneasy. If the music is light and hopeful, challenges feel surmountable. So it is with your mind. Those habitual thoughts and imaginings are composing the score of your life. Neville Goddard teaches that inner speech not only reflects our state of consciousness, it actually helps create our outer circumstances. We carry on mental conversations with ourselves and with others in our imagination, and over time those very conversations solidify into the events we encounter. If you constantly think from fear or lack, life seems to bring more things to fear and lack. If you nurture thoughts of love, success, and peace, life mirrors these back in people and situations. Your inner speech is creative. Think of it this way. Your mind is a garden, and each thought is a seed. The inner conversations you repeatedly have, I am safe, or I'm always unlucky, or life is exciting, these are planted in your subconscious soil. With attention, they grow and bear fruit. It's tempting to blame the weather or the soil when we see unwanted fruit in our life, but wise gardeners know to check the seeds first. Change the seed and over time, you change the harvest. Story, the whispering echo to bring this concept to life. Let's wander into a short tale. Picture a small town out west, nestled between gentle hills and pine forests. In this town lives a school teacher named John Whitman, who is known for being rather grumpy. John's students often hear him mumble under his breath about his misfortunes. Nothing ever goes right. Kids these days have no respect. I'm just tired and underpaid. He never says these things aloud to anyone important, but in his own head, it's like a broken record. On the edge of town, there is a place called Whispering Canyon, where the walls of earth form a natural echo chamber. One autumn afternoon, John goes for a walk by himself to clear his mind. Frustrated after a difficult week, he stands at the mouth of the canyon and mutters, "I'm so unlucky. Nothing works out." His voice carries into the canyon and bounces back. Unlucky, nothing works out. Startled, John shouts into the void, "Who's there?" The canyon replies, "Who's there?" in a softer, distorted tone. Realizing it's an echo, John nevertheless feels as if the landscape itself is confirming his worries. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to John, one of his former students, Emily, is hiking on the ridge above. Emily is a young woman with a bright imagination. She hears the faint sound of John's voice from below, though she can't make out the words. For fun, Emily cups her hands and calls into the air, "Hello! You are loved." The canyon sends back a whisper, "You are loved." John hears this gentle echo suddenly, as if the canyon itself decided to speak kindly. He looks around, seeing no one. Something about those words touches him. In that moment, he thinks it was his own mind speaking, a rare kind thought breaking through his gloom. As John walks home, he can't shake the echo's words, "You are loved." The next day, he arrives at school, and for the first time in a while, instead of grumbling internally about disrespectful kids, he remembers the kind echo. In class, when a student misbehaves, John finds himself calmly saying, "Let's try to understand each other," instead of assuming the worst. He speaks inwardly to himself, "I can handle this, I care about these kids." To his surprise, the class seems to soften. One of the quieter students even leaves a note on his desk at day's end. "Thank you, Mr. Whitman, for caring." John smiles, thinking of Whispering Canyon, finally understanding that life had been echoing his own habitual thoughts back to him all along. Reflection. John's story is a gentle allegory. Life is the canyon, reflecting back the essence of what we project into it. His negative inner speech echoed back as continued hardship. In fact, some spiritual teachers refer to this practice as a mental diet, deliberately choosing healthy, positive thoughts and refusing to indulge in negative self-talk. If you catch yourself internally complaining or worrying, you gently redirect to a more constructive inner conversation. Over time, this steady mental diet yields remarkable results, as the food of positive thoughts produces the fruit of positive circumstances. Learn to relate happenings in your day to what you've been saying inside, and you'll become self-taught in this art of inner speech. Reflection. John's story is a gentle allegory. Life is the canyon, reflecting back the essence of what we project into it. His negative inner speech echoed back as continued hardship. In fact, some spiritual teachers refer to this practice as a mental diet, deliberately choosing healthy, positive thoughts and refusing to indulge in negative self-talk. If you catch yourself internally complaining or worrying, you gently redirect to a more constructive inner conversation. Over time, this steady mental diet yields remarkable results, as the food of positive thoughts produces the fruit of positive circumstances. Learn to relate happenings in your day to what you've been saying inside, and you'll become self-taught in this art of inner speech. Inner speech is creative, whether we are aware of it or not. The key is to become aware and then deliberate in choosing inner conversations that serve us. You might wonder, do my passing thoughts really have such power? It's the persistent inner speech, the themes we return to habitually, that matter most. A random angry thought here or there is like a single shout in the canyon. Yes, it echoes, but it's the repeated refrain that sets the tone of the echoes that come back as your life. As Neville Goddard put it, your inner speech is perpetually written all around you in happenings. When you change that inner speech, you eventually change the happenings. The transformation begins with awareness. Listen to how you speak to yourself in the privacy of your mind. Is it mostly worry, self-criticism, doubt, or do you nurture hope, self-encouragement, and trust? Don't judge yourself harshly for what you find. Those patterns often started long ago as ways to protect or motivate ourselves. But now that you're waking up to your creative power, you can gently shift those patterns. Remember, you are not at the mercy of the echo. You are the one who calls out. The canyon of life will faithfully return whatever you consistently send. This means you always have the ability to start a new conversation. It might feel strange at first to change the inner script, like speaking a new language. Persist gently. If a negative thought rises, "I can't do this," you might counter it with an inner statement of the desired end. "I am capable. I have done it." It's not about fighting or suppressing thoughts, but rather replacing them with new assumptions that align with the life you choose to create. Guided practice, tuning your inner voice. At the end of each chapter, we'll do a practice together. For inner speech, our practice will be about tuning in and then gently tuning up the voice in your head. 1. Mindful listening, daytime exercise. Today, set a gentle intention to observe your inner speech. You might even imagine you have a small portable radio in your mind, and you're simply listening to the station it's tuned to. Without trying to change anything at first, notice the tone of your self-talk. Are you generally kind to yourself or harsh? Do you often imagine conversations where you defend yourself, complain, or worry? Perhaps you replay past events or rehearse future scenarios. Just take mental notes. The goal is awareness. If you can, jot down a few recurring phrases or themes you catch. 2. Evening reflection. In the evening, find a quiet moment. Look at the notes of what you observed or recall them mentally. Now, ask. Are these the inner conversations I want life to echo back to me? If not, how could you rephrase them to match the experiences you do want? For example, if you noticed, "I always mess things up," you might rewrite it as, "I am learning and growing. I do my best and it works out." If you caught yourself thinking, "Nobody appreciates me," consider replacing it with, "I am valued and loved and I appreciate others as well." 3. Conscious inner conversation, visualization. Close your eyes and take a few relaxing breaths. Imagine you are again standing before a magical canyon of echoes, your life. Now, slowly speak your new positive assumptions inwardly, as though calling out into that canyon. You might inwardly say affirming phrases, "I am confident and successful. I move through my day with peace. I am loved and loving." Choose statements that feel empowering but also believable enough to embrace. As you mentally say these, also try to feel them. If you say, "I am safe," allow yourself to actually feel safe in that moment, like being wrapped in a warm blanket. 4. Hear the echo. After each statement, pause and imagine the canyon responding. In your mind's ear, hear a gentle echo of your new inner speech coming back to you, life agreeing, "Yes, it's done." This visualization strengthens your faith that what you assume inside, life reflects outside. Carry this exercise with you beyond today. Whenever you recall the image of life's echo, use it as a reminder. Speak within what you wish to see without. Over time, with consistent, gentle practice, you'll find your inner voice becoming a supportive ally, and as it does, the world around you will begin to echo these more loving, confident tones. In the next chapter, we'll delve deeper into the heart of the law of assumption, cultivating the feeling that your wish is already fulfilled. With your inner speech now attuned, you are ready to truly inhabit the states you desire. Take another deep breath and let's continue our journey. Chapter 2: The Feeling of the Wish Fulfilled. At the core of the law of assumption lies a simple yet profound secret. Feeling is the key. It's one thing to think of a wish or to say affirmations. It's another to feel, in the depth of your being, that your wish is already a reality. Neville Goddard often distilled his teachings into a single directive: assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You must make your future dream a present fact by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, he advised. This means living in the emotional state you would experience if your desire were already accomplished. Feelings are the language of the subconscious. They imprint deeper than words. Imagine your subconscious mind as fertile soil, while words and thoughts scatter seeds. It is the feeling attached to them that determines whether they take root and grow. A vividly imagined scene that leaves you feeling joyful and grateful impresses the subconscious far more than a dry, rote affirmation spoken without emotion. Feeling is like the water and sunlight that allow the seed to burgeon into life. Think back to a time when you were completely absorbed in a daydream, maybe as a child. Perhaps you pretended you were a superhero, or that you were performing on stage in front of thousands, or living in your dream house by the sea. In those moments, your heart likely swelled with the emotion of it being real, the exhilaration of flying, the pride of applause, the peace of the waves and salty air. When the daydream ended, you might have been surprised to find yourself back in ordinary surroundings, because for a while it felt true. That childlike capacity is what we are rekindling here, but with deliberate purpose. The bridge of feeling to understand the power of feeling. Let's meet Evelyn, a young woman with a dream. Evelyn lives in a suburban town and works as a bank teller. Yet, in her heart, she has always yearned to be an artist, making a living from her paintings. Every day, counting bills behind the counter, she feels that longing like a distant melody she can't forget. But usually, her daydreams end in a sigh. If only I could, but I can't. It's unrealistic. Thus, her wish remains just that, a wish tinged with sorrow and lack. One summer, Evelyn meets an old family friend, Martin, at a picnic. Martin is in his 50s and has a warm, somewhat mysterious smile. He had been a concert cellist who travelled the world. Now he's settled back in town. Noticing Evelyn's melancholy, he strikes up a conversation and she confides her secret desire to paint. Martin listens thoughtfully and then asks, "What would it feel like if you were already the artist you want to be?" Evelyn is puzzled. "I don't know. Happy, I guess, but I'm not." Martin pats his cello case and says, "When I was a teenager, I felt I was already a musician playing great halls, long before it happened. I would come home from my job at my father's store, close my eyes and lose myself in the feeling of a grand performance. I could hear the applause in my mind, feel the stage lights. In a way, I lived those experiences internally until life caught up. That night, Evelyn decides to try Martin's advice. In her small apartment, she sits before a blank canvas. Instead of thinking, "I wish I could be an artist," she closes her eyes and imagines one of her paintings hanging in a beautiful gallery. She imagines people walking by, admiring it. Her heart warms at the thought. She paints the scene in her mind in rich detail, the soft hum of conversations, the clink of glasses at an opening reception, the smell of varnish and oil paint in the gallery air. Most importantly, she focuses on how fulfilled and proud she would feel. A smile comes to her face and tears even well up, as if a deep thirst is being quenched. In that moment, Evelyn feels like a successful artist whose work touches others. Over the following weeks, she makes this a nightly ritual. Before bed, she imagines delivering a finished painting to a happy buyer or signing her name at the bottom of a canvas with satisfaction. These imaginal scenes become so familiar and beloved that they are like secret memories of her future self. During the day at the bank, instead of lamenting, "I'm stuck here," she recalls the feeling from the night before, carrying that inner glow of, "Yes, my path as an artist is real." The job becomes more tolerable, even pleasant, because she knows it's temporary. Doors soon start opening. A co-worker mentions a cousin who's opening a new cafe and looking for local art to display. Evelyn, feeling bold from her inner work, offers to show some of her paintings. The cafe owner loves them, and not only hangs them but sells 2 to customers within a month, sharing the profit with Evelyn and commissioning more. A local newspaper runs a small piece on the cafe's decor, mentioning Evelyn by name as a promising local artist. With each external step, Evelyn doubles down on feeling her success, grateful, confident, already living the life she envisioned. Within a year, she reduces her hours at the bank and devotes most of her time to painting, her income supplemented by art sales and teaching a weekend workshop. She often thinks back to that first night of intense feeling and smiles, realizing that was the moment she truly became an artist. Everything after was just a bridge leading her to what she already felt real inside. Neville Goddard himself provided a striking example of this principle early in his life. In the winter of 1933, Neville was a young man in New York City who desperately wanted to sail home to Barbados to see his family, but he had no money for the journey. His mentor, a mystical teacher named Abdullah, instructed Neville to deny what his eyes saw and instead assume the feeling of his wish fulfilled. Each night, Neville fell asleep imagining he was already in his family home in Barbados, feeling the tropical warmth, smelling the ocean breeze, and hearing the laughter of his loved ones. He walked through the snowy streets of New York as though he were strolling under palm trees in Bridgetown, carrying himself with the relief and joy of being in Barbados. Within a short time, an unexpected series of events unfolded. Neville received a letter from his brother offering money and a ticket for Neville's passage home. When he went to claim it, even a last-minute upgrade to first class occurred, just as Abdullah had imagined for him. He sailed to Barbados without spending a dime of his own. This famous story illustrates that no matter how impossible a desire may appear, when you truly live from its fulfillment, you open the path for it to manifest. Neville assumed the feeling, and the world rearranged to match. His dream journey became reality. Living in the end, Evelyn's story demonstrates the feeling of the wish fulfilled in action. By experiencing the emotions of her wish as present fact, she set unseen forces into motion. This practice is sometimes called living in the end, meaning you take up residence in the emotional and mental state of your accomplished desire. When you consistently inhabit that state, it must externalize in your world. It's as if life says, "Oh, you already feel this way. Let me adjust the circumstances to match." A crucial point here is persisting in the feeling. Initially, when Evelyn returned to work after her first imaginings, nothing had changed yet in the outer world. Doubt crept in and said, "Who are you kidding?" But she gently returned to the feeling night after night. She nurtured it as one would keep a small flame alive in the wind. There is often a time delay between inner assumption and outer manifestation, and this is where many falter. They peek outside, see nothing has happened yet, and let the feeling slip away, concluding it was fantasy. But those who manifest successfully hold the feeling with faith, knowing that the seed takes time to sprout beneath the soil. The reason feeling is so effective is that it convinces your subconscious that it's already done. The subconscious mind does not distinguish between a vividly imagined feeling and reality. It accepts what it is impressed with. Once accepted, it works tirelessly to obey that new truth, orchestrating subtle shifts in your thoughts, behaviors, and even external events to align with the assumed state. This is what some might call co-creation with the universe, or the action of a higher power responding to faith. But you don't need to analyze how it happens. Just that feeling, it real is the causal act. An important clarification. Assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled is not about faking happiness or denying current reality in a harmful way. It's not pretending a bad situation doesn't exist, rather it's choosing to fully embody the outcome beyond the present situation. If you are ill, it doesn't mean ignore treatment. It means during and after treatment, consistently imagine and feel yourself vibrant and healthy. If lonely, don't deny the feeling of loneliness. That only creates inner resistance. Acknowledge it, then gently shift to feeling loved and loving. We're training the mind to dwell in the desired end, while still wisely handling the now. Guided practice, feel it real. This practice will help you generate and sustain the feeling of your wish fulfilled. It's best done in a relaxed state, perhaps before sleep or early in the morning, when your mind is naturally receptive. 1. Identify a heartfelt desire. Think of something you truly want, something that genuinely excites you or brings you joy to imagine. It could be a circumstance, like a dream home or a thriving relationship, a personal quality, like confidence or creativity, or a life role, such as being a successful entrepreneur or healer. For now, pick one desire to focus on. Write it down in a simple sentence if that helps, phrased as though it's already achieved. For instance, I am thriving in my new career, or I am healthy and full of energy. 2. Find a quiet moment. Sit or lie down in a comfortable position. begin with a few deep breaths. On each exhale, intentionally release any tension in your body. Feel yourself becoming calm and centered. Close your eyes gently. 3. Construct an imaginal scene. In your mind's eye, create a short scene that implies your wishes fulfilled. It should be a moment in time after your desire has come true, something that would naturally happen as a result. If your wish was for a loving partner, an imaginal scene could be the two of you cooking dinner together in your home, laughing and happy. If it was a career achievement, perhaps envision shaking hands with someone congratulating you, or opening an acceptance letter, or enjoying your first day in your new office. Keep the scene short and specific, and include sensory details, sights, sounds, perhaps touch. Importantly, choose a scene that emotionally resonates, one that would make you feel the fulfillment, pride, love, or peace in that moment. 4. Enter the scene. Now gently step into this imagined scene as though it's happening right now. You are not watching it like a movie. You are in it, seeing through your own eyes. If in the scene you're holding a congratulations letter, feel the paper in your hand. Hear the tone of the loved one's voice in your ear, or feel the warmth of their hug. Look around in that mental image. Notice the colors, the environment. Take it slowly and let it become as vivid as possible. 5. Generate the feeling. As the scene unfolds in your imagination, perhaps it lasts 10 to 20 seconds, focus on the feeling it generates. What is the dominant emotion? Is it joy, relief, gratitude, love? Let that feeling well up naturally. You might feel a smile spread on your face or a lightness in your chest. Allow it to expand and permeate you. If it helps, innerly affirm something that captures it, like, "Isn't it wonderful?" or "Thank you," whatever fits the moment. Stay with the scene and the feeling, looping it if you like, for as long as it remains vivid and pleasant. 6. Rest in fulfillment. When you feel you've sufficiently saturated yourself with the experience, you can let the imagery fade, but strive to carry the essence of the feeling as you drift off to sleep or continue your day. For example, after visualizing, if you were doing this before bed, you would now snuggle into your pillow with the quiet inner knowing that it is done. Fall asleep in that mood of wish fulfilled. If you're doing it during the day, take a moment after to perhaps journal any impressions and commit to revisiting that feeling frequently, especially whenever doubts arise. 7. Rinse and repeat. Consistency is key. Try this exercise nightly for a week, or even 21 days, as often suggested for habit formation. See it as a delightful routine. You're watering the seed of your dream with the feeling tonic it needs. Each time, it might get easier to slip into the feeling, and the scene may evolve or become more detailed. That's fine. Just ensure the core feeling is the one you truly want. By practicing feeling it real, you are effectively living from the end result. Over time, you may notice subtle shifts. You wake up happier, you take different actions, or opportunities related to your dream appear unexpectedly. Keep nurturing the inner state regardless of appearances, and watch how life gradually rearranges to reflect your sustained feeling. Now that we have learned to generate the inner feeling of our fulfilled desires, the next chapter will expand on this idea, focusing on how to carry that feeling into daily life. How do we maintain the wish-fulfilled perspective when the world hasn't caught up yet? This leads us into the art of living from the end, the subject of our next chapter, Chapter 3, Living from the End. To live from the end means to let your assumed desire guide how you think, feel, and act right now, as though the outcome were already assured. In the previous chapter, we practiced entering the feeling of the wish fulfilled during dedicated moments of visualization or meditation. Now we ask, how can we walk through our everyday life, holding that feeling and awareness? How do we respond to the world from the standpoint of our wish already granted? Living from the end is a natural extension of assuming the wish fulfilled. It requires a blend of faith and imagination in every moment. It is, in essence, living in the state of the answered prayer. Neville Goddard succinctly captured this principle. Live as though it were true. This is not a one-time act, but a continuous way of being. When you persist in this inner stance, you are remaining loyal to your vision despite any contradictory evidence your senses might show. Over time, the outer world conforms. The mental dress rehearsal. Imagine you are an actor cast in a magnificent play. You've been given the final script and you know how the story ends. Your character finds happiness, resolution, triumph. In rehearsals, you wouldn't act as if you don't know the ending. You would carry the knowledge of the ending into every scene leading up to it, giving hints of that final state in your performance. Similarly, with life, living from the end means internally you know the ending is in your favor, and you let that knowledge color your present. Let's illustrate this with the story of Daniel, an apprentice chef with big ambitions. Daniel works long hours in a bustling restaurant kitchen in Chicago. He dreams of one day owning a farm-to-table bistro of his own. At first, his dream feels distant. He is just a line cook chopping onions and searing steaks under a demanding head chef. After learning about the law of assumption, Daniel decides to live from the end. In his mind, he starts to identify as not just a lowly apprentice, but as a future successful restaurateur in training. Each morning, Daniel puts on his worn chef's jacket, but he stands a little taller, imagining it's embroidered with his name as head chef. When he encounters problems at work, a supplier delivered mediocre produce or a sauce was spilled, instead of complaining like some colleagues, he asks himself, how would I handle this if I were the owner and head chef of my own restaurant? This shift in perspective causes him to take initiative and solve issues with creativity and leadership. He befriends local farmers at the market on his days off, as he imagines a real owner would do for sourcing ingredients. He starts drafting hypothetical menus for his dream bistro in a notebook at night, playing with dish ideas as if prepping for real service. To others, Daniel is still an apprentice, but something about him changes. His confidence grows. His passion is evident. The head chef notices Daniel's proactive attitude and begins entrusting him with more responsibility, letting him design the nightly special or manage the kitchen inventory. One day, a customer at the restaurant, impressed by the meal and the young chef who came out to describe the special dish, strikes up a conversation. It turns out this patron is an investor looking to support new culinary talent. He offers Daniel an opportunity, funding to start a small eatery, if Daniel can propose a solid concept. This chance encounter isn't chance at all. It's the result of Daniel living in the end, which guided his actions and even magnetized the right people to him. Even after the investor's offer, the journey isn't without challenges. There's a year of planning, finding a location and refining the concept. But Daniel navigates these hurdles with an inner certainty, always referencing that vision of his cozy bistro bustling with happy customers. He makes decisions from the endpoint backwards. 2 years from the day he made the decision to live from the end, Daniel stands in front of the mirror adjusting a new chef's jacket. This time, it truly bears the name of Chef Daniel and the logo of his own restaurant. The door opens to the dining room, and reality has caught up with what Daniel had already been living in his mind and heart. Embodying your future self, Daniel's story shows how living from the end is like a strong internal compass. Because he acted as if his dream was certain, everything he did began to align with that future. He radiated the confidence and competence of someone who knew he would succeed, which in turn influenced how others saw and supported him. This is not arrogance or daydreaming, it's practical faith. Living from the end might seem tricky when current reality is very different. It's important to distinguish between ignoring reality and reinterpreting it from your desired state. When something unwanted happens, you don't pretend it didn't happen. Rather, you respond to it as the person you desire to be would respond. It's like maintaining your character in the play, regardless of improvisations on stage. For example, if you are living from a state of financial abundance, an unexpected bill doesn't throw you into panic as it might have before. Instead, you face it with calm, maybe thinking, "All right, I'll handle this." Money flows to me in expected and unexpected ways, and thus you handle it or find a solution from a place of trust. This mindset also helps avoid one of the pitfalls of manifestation practice: desperation. If you constantly check for results, is it here yet? Did it happen? You're actually implying you don't have it yet, reinforcing lack. Living from the end means you internally have it, so you can relax. It's like ordering a package online. Once you've placed the order and have confirmation you trust it's being prepared, you don't keep ordering it over and over. You go about your day knowing it's coming. Similarly, once you've assumed a state, you go about life trusting the world will eventually reflect it. This eases the anxious energy and actually allows things to unfold more smoothly. Faith and the bridge of incidents. Often in Neville's lectures, he speaks of the bridge of incidents. These are the chain of events that lead you from where you are to the realization of your desire. When you live from the end, you don't necessarily know how the bridge will appear or what it will look like, and you don't need to. Your job is not to construct the bridge. Your job is to remain on the destination side in consciousness. Life will build the bridge under your feet as you walk, often in ways you couldn't have planned deliberately. In Daniel's case, the investor was part of that bridge, as were the challenges that honed his skill. It requires faith that your assumption, if persisted in, will harden into fact. You might recall a line from scripture often cited by Neville. When ye pray, believe that ye have received, and ye shall have. This essentially describes living from the end. Believe you have received in consciousness, and then in the outer world you shall have. This kind of faith is not blind, it's experiential. As you practice with smaller things, you build trust in the process. Maybe you start with something minor. Assume you have a delightful day, feel it in the morning, carry that with you, and watch a normally drab day turn out surprisingly pleasant. These little victories encourage you to try it with bigger dreams. One more aspect. Living from the end often involves subtle shifts in identity. You begin to think of yourself as the kind of person who already has what you desire. Over time, this consistent identity shift changes your self-concept, and we inevitably act according to our self-concept. If you repeatedly assume the feeling of being a loving partner, even if single now, you'll start to radiate love, confidence, and wholeness, which likely draws others to you and makes you a better partner in the making. If you assume the feeling of wealth, you might find yourself naturally making decisions that improve your finances or create opportunities because you've stopped identifying as the one who is broke. Guided practice. Daily end living. This exercise is about integrating the end state into your daily life. It's a blend of mental rehearsal and active imagination on the go. 1. Morning alignment. Each morning, as you wake up, take a couple of minutes while still in bed to remember your chosen wish or goal. Summon the feeling of its fulfillment that you cultivated in the previous chapter. It might help to recall the imaginal scene you used, or simply the emotion and confidence. State a simple intention. Today, I will act and think as the person/life I desire to be. For example, today I carry myself as a successful writer, or I move through the day as someone who is healthy and strong, whatever fits your desire. This sets your mental tone. 2. Wear the state. As you get dressed, imagine you are literally putting on the identity of your wish-fulfilled self, like putting on clothing. If your desire is, say, to become a CEO, as you button your shirt or straighten your outfit, imagine you're preparing for a day in that role. If your desire is to heal from an illness, as you lace your shoes, imagine you're suiting up in vitality and strength. This may feel playful, but it's a powerful cue to your subconscious that we are being this today. 3. Inner commentary during the day. Throughout the day, practice a kind of inner commentary from the vantage point of your fulfilled self. This means you keep an eye on your reactions and gently steer them. If something happens that would normally frustrate the old you, pause and think, how would the fulfilled me respond? Then try to respond that way. If you catch yourself falling into an old state, like worry or self-pity, that's okay. Notice it without scolding yourself, and then recall the feeling of your end state and step back into that mindset. Some people find it helpful to use a physical reminder, a special ring or a bracelet, that when touched reminds them, I am being the future me now. 4. Creative. Pretend. Find opportunities to pretend in action. If your dream is a new home, maybe on your evening walk, you walk through a nice neighborhood and imagine for a few minutes that you live there. Feel the pride and comfort as if returning home. If your goal is a new career, Perhaps spend a half hour on a weekend actually doing an activity you imagine that future self doing. Design a mock business plan. Record a demo of you giving that lecture. Draw sketches for your fashion line. Do it with the mindset that it's real preparation, not just fantasy. These tangible actions, however small, make the state feel real and also often lead to tangible results down the line. 5. Nightly review. At the end of the day, reflect. How did it feel to live from the end today? Were there moments you felt especially aligned with your future self? Moments you slipped into old patterns? This isn't to judge yourself, but to learn. If there were challenging moments, you might revise them, a technique we will explore fully in the revision chapter, by imagining yourself handling them as the ideal you would have, and celebrate the moments you succeeded, even if just in maintaining a better mood or perspective. As you go to sleep, once again summon the feeling of the wish fulfilled strongly, and fall asleep in that mood, reaffirming that you are indeed that person already, and all is unfolding perfectly. 6. Rinse and repeat. Living from the end is a daily practice. Each day is a new canvas. Some days you'll feel you nailed it. Other days you'll feel far from the end state. But every effort counts and builds the muscle. The key is consistency and self-compassion. By consciously living from the end, you are effectively collapsing the timeline between you and your goal. You bring the joy and confidence of the future into the present. Paradoxically, by acting as if you already have it, you hasten the day when you actually do. And even if the outer manifestation is still on its way, your quality of life improves immediately because you're no longer in a state of waiting. You're in a state of being. In our next chapter, we will look at the world around us in a new light. When you adopt these inner changes, you'll notice something almost magical. The outer world begins to mirror your inner state. This mirror principle is fundamental to understanding why all this works. So let's explore the mirror of reality and how the world reflects your assumptions. Chapter 4. The Mirror of Reality. Have you ever walked past a still pond on a clear day and noticed how vividly it reflected the world? Trees, sky, and your own face looking back, every detail mirrored. You wouldn't try to change your reflection by manipulating the surface of the water. You'd know that to smile at the reflection, you must smile first. This simple truth captures the essence of the mirror principle. Your outer reality is a mirror reflecting your inner state. Neville Goddard expressed this idea succinctly. The world is a mirror, forever reflecting what you are doing within yourself. This idea is ancient and universal. In the Bible it is said, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he," and in mystical teachings, "As within, so without." All traditions recognize that our inner world generates our outer world. It means that the circumstances and experiences in your life are not random or imposed by a capricious fate. They are intimately connected to your own beliefs, feelings, and ongoing inner conversations. While this might sound mystical, it's also empowering. Change what you do within, your assumptions, attitudes, and reactions, and the reflection, the external world, must eventually change in accordance. Life meeting. You halfway to illustrate. Let's turn to a brief story of two neighbours, James and Robert, who live on Maple Street. They have similar jobs, similar incomes, and even similar family setups. Yet James often says life is a constant struggle, while Robert seems to glide through with a smile. Their inner attitudes make all the difference. James begins each day irritated. Traffic is out to get him in his view. At work, he assumes his colleagues are lazy or trying to take advantage of him, and he often thinks people are untrustworthy. This assumption leads him to be short with others, and in turn they respond coldly. One morning, James spills coffee on his shirt and erupts in anger, inwardly fuming. Of course, things always go wrong for me. He carries a cloud of annoyance, and sure enough, that day he gets a flat tire, forgets an important meeting, and ends the day arguing with his spouse over minor issues. To James, this just confirms his belief that life is hard and people are difficult. Robert, next door, starts his day by quietly giving thanks for a new day. In traffic, he listens to music or an interesting podcast, taking the delay in stride. He assumes that people, by and large, mean well. He trusts that even if something goes sideways, there's a solution. At work, he mentally sends goodwill to his colleagues and approaches problems with curiosity. That same morning, Robert also spills coffee on his counter. He sighs and chuckles, cleans it up and thinks, "I guess I was meant to pause for a moment. No big deal." During the day, he finds a creative fix to a team issue, earning genuine thanks from a coworker. He receives an apology from someone who snapped at him last week, and when he gets home, he discovers his wife made his favorite dinner because she felt in a good mood. Robert ends the day feeling grateful, and he drifts to sleep envisioning tomorrow as another good day. This contrast, like a modern fable, shows how our predominant inner attitudes and reactions invite corresponding experiences. It's not that only good things happen to Robert or only bad things happen to James. Rather, each interprets and reacts to life in ways that amplify either the positive or the negative. The mirror of their reality dutifully reflects back their persistent assumptions. James assumes struggle and finds plenty of it. Robert assumes goodwill and ease and finds that. On a larger scale, when you consistently hold an assumption, life arranges itself to validate it. If deep down you feel unworthy, you might unconsciously sabotage opportunities or gravitate towards people who treat you poorly, thus proving your unworthiness. If instead you cultivate a strong sense of self-worth, you begin to make choices that reflect respect and care, and you attract those who respect and value you, confirming your worthiness. Everyone is you pushed out. A related idea in the law of assumption circles is the phrase, "everyone is you pushed out." This means that others in your experience, especially their behavior toward you, often mirror something in your own consciousness. It doesn't mean you are responsible for others' independent lives or choices, but within the context of your reality, how they show up for you can reflect your beliefs. For instance, if you repeatedly find partners who are cold or distant, it might mirror an assumption you hold that people abandon me, or a fear of intimacy within yourself. Change that assumption and belief in your own mind. For example, assume I am always loved and cherished in relationships. And you might be surprised to find either your current partner softening and becoming more affectionate, or new people entering your life who demonstrate warmth and commitment. This principle is empowering because it moves you out of the victim mentality. Instead of, "Why is that person hurting me?" you ask, "What is this reflecting in me, And how can I change it within? Perhaps it's reflecting a lack of self-love or a belief that you must tolerate poor treatment. By addressing that, by learning to love yourself and assume you deserve kindness, you either shift the dynamic with the person or move out of it, attracting better circumstances. Changing the reflection. Understanding the mirror concept, one might ask, if I want to change my life, should I focus on changing the outer world or the inner? The mirror analogy gives the answer. Trying to change outer conditions without shifting the inner state is like fussing with the mirror image without altering the object being reflected. It's often frustrating and ineffective. But when you work on the level of mind and heart, adjusting your assumptions, healing your self-concept, aligning with your desires, the outer adjustments follow naturally as reflection follows the object. This doesn't mean we take no external action. Rather, our actions become much more effective because they're guided by a changed consciousness. If you're looking for a job and believe, it's a tough market, nobody will hire me, you might half-heartedly send out a few resumes and then give up, confirming your assumption. If you switch internally to opportunities are abundant and I'm a great candidate, you'll approach the job hunt with a different energy, perhaps networking with enthusiasm, projecting confidence in interviews, and you persist until the mirror reflects the new belief, i.e., you land a good job. Sometimes the reflection change isn't instant. Just as a large ship doesn't turn on a dime, your life may have momentum from past thoughts, so there can be a lag. During this time, it's crucial to not get discouraged by what the mirror currently shows. If you start to assume wealth but your bank account is still low, don't let the appearance convince you to abandon the assumption. Instead, use every small sign as encouragement. Hey, I found a $10 bill, things are improving. And treat negative appearances as old echoes that are on their way out. Persist in the new assumption, and the mirror must catch up by law. The mirror principle also implies something beautiful. The world can become your feedback friend. It will show you what you truly believe. By observing it without defensiveness, you can gain insight. If you notice a pattern of disrespect in others toward you, it invites you to find where you might be disrespecting yourself or expecting disrespect. If you observe that opportunities keep slipping away, ask what fear or doubt within might be pushing them away. Use the world not as an enemy, but as a diagnostic tool to adjust your inner state. Guided practice, working with the mirror. This practice will help you engage with the mirror principle actively. It's part self-reflection, part creative reimagining of situations. 1. Identify a recurring pattern. Think of an area in your life where you feel things keep turning out the same way, especially if it's negative or not to your liking. It could be anything. Difficulty in friendships, trouble with authority figures, financial ups and downs, etc. Write down a brief description of the pattern. For example, I always feel overlooked at work, or my romantic relationships start great but end with me feeling abandoned, or no matter what I do, I can't get ahead financially. 2. Inner belief scan. Now, quietly consider what assumption or belief might you be carrying that corresponds to this pattern. Be honest and gentle with yourself. Using the examples above, if you always feel overlooked, perhaps you believe I'm not as good as others, or I am destined to be in the background. If relationships end in abandonment, perhaps I'm not truly lovable, or everyone leaves me. If it's financial stagnation, maybe I can't manage money, or I never have enough. Money is hard to come by. These can be subtle. You might not consciously think them in words, but emotionally they resonate. Write down whatever comes up as a possible belief, even if it's hard to admit. This is for your eyes only. 3. Flip the script. For each negative belief identified, create a new positive assumption to replace it. It's like choosing a new image to project onto the mirror. If the old was, I'm not as good, the new might be, I bring unique value and people recognize it. If it was, I'm not lovable, flip it to, I am deeply worthy of love and I receive it abundantly. Money is hard to come by can flip to, money flows to me easily and consistently. Choose words that feel empowering but also somewhat believable. If easily and consistently is too much of a stretch, maybe increasingly and supportively. 4. Imagination and emotional charge. Close your eyes and imagine scenarios in your life reflecting the new assumption. For the work example, see yourself being acknowledged in a meeting or praised in an email, feeling proud and valued. Hear a colleague say, "We couldn't have done this without you." For the relationship example, imagine a partner who is attentive and loyal, or even friends and family surrounding you, expressing love and appreciation. Feel how secure and cherished you are. For money, imagine checking your bank account and seeing a comfortable balance, or paying bills with a smile and ease, or celebrating a promotion or profitable idea. Feel the relief, happiness, and confidence of these new truths. You might do this for a few minutes, really savoring the emotions. 5. Affirm and release. Now, take the new assumption and form a simple affirmation or statement of intent. Speak it out loud or write it. For example, life mirrors my belief that I am successful and valued, or I now assume and see that I am truly loved and lovable, or I cultivate an inner wealth that reflects as outer wealth. You can phrase it in any way that resonates. Even just I am valued, I am lovable, I am financially secure. The key is that when you say it, you evoke that new feeling. Repeat it a few times, sincerely. Then, symbolically, release it by trusting it is now in effect. 6. Watch the world with new eyes. For the next week or so, act as though the new assumption is true, tying into living from the end. But also, watch the world like a detective for evidence of change. Even small things count. Maybe out of nowhere a friend compliments you, or you get a thank you from your boss. Aha! A sign that your valued assumption is taking root. Perhaps you find a supportive, caring person enters your life unexpectedly, hinting that your lovable vibe is reaching people. Maybe you receive a small financial bonus or gift, reflecting the money flows belief. Each time something happens that aligns with the new assumption, acknowledge it and feel grateful, as if seeing your reflection start to smile back because you smiled first. 7. Handle old reflections wisely. If something happens that seems to reflect the old pattern, don't panic or give up. Remember, the old reflection might linger a bit. Instead of thinking, "See, nothing changed," reaffirm internally, "No, I know my inner state has changed, so This is transient. The new is coming. If appropriate, use revision, which we'll cover next, to mentally transform that incident, and double down on giving the response your new self would give, rather than reacting in the habitual way. Through this practice, you'll develop a sort of conversation with reality. You adjust inside. Reality adjusts outside. Step by step, the patterns that once felt unbreakable will shift because you are addressing them at the source within you. It's a wonderfully liberating process, like realizing you had the controls to the mirror all along. Now that we've explored how the world mirrors our inner being, we have touched upon a powerful method hinted at above: revision. When life shows us something we don't like, we can actually revise our inner memory of it to change its effect. In the next chapter, we delve into this advanced but incredible tool, how changing our view of the past can transform our present and future. Get ready to learn the art of rewriting reality through revision. Chapter 5. From Desire to Being. State of being versus desire. Up to this point, we've discussed assuming the wish fulfilled, living from the end, and seeing reality as a mirror of our inner state. Now we need to address a subtle but crucial distinction in the manifesting journey: the difference between desiring something and being in the state of already having it. It can be summed up as moving from "I want" to "I am." Desire in itself is not bad. Indeed, it's the fuel of creation. But there's a paradox. As long as we dwell in the feeling of wanting or yearning for something, we are also implicitly acknowledging its absence. The more we say, "I want this so much," the more we reinforce, "I do not have this." The state of being, on the other hand, is what we've been practicing: to internally become the person who already possesses or experiences the desire. It's the difference between looking at a distant star versus standing on that star. Neville Goddard often explained it this way: you do not manifest what you want, you manifest what you are conscious of being. Or as an old proverb goes, man attracts what he is. If you feel yourself to be lacking, you attract more lack. If you feel yourself to be abundant even before the outer evidence, you attract abundance. This is why earlier we emphasized feeling the wish fulfilled and living from it. Now, let's dive a bit deeper into releasing the state of desire in the sense of longing and replacing it with the state of fulfillment. The hunger that is satisfied. Imagine Caroline, who deeply wants a loving romantic relationship. She feels this longing every day, especially when she sees happy couples or comes home to an empty apartment. She prays, she writes in her journal about wanting a partner. She even goes on dates, but at her core, she carries a sense of loneliness and a fear that love might never happen for her. She is living in the state of desire, a state that, ironically, can keep the object of desire at bay because she's radiating, "I don't have this." Now consider if Caroline shifts. She decides to try an experiment. For a month, she'll live as if she already has the loving partner she seeks. Every night, she imagines someone special saying goodnight to her. She even sleeps on one side of the bed, leaving space as if a loved one were there. When she cooks, she sets 2 places, enjoying her meal with the feeling that companionship surrounds her. Sometimes she even imagines conversing with her partner over dinner, sharing about her day. When she goes out, she carries herself as someone who is loved and adored, head high, a secret smile, no trace of desperation. She genuinely works on feeling content and complete, savoring her freedom, but also the imminent togetherness she believes is hers. What happens? First, Caroline's whole mood improves. She no longer spends evenings lamenting her singleness. She uses the time to pursue hobbies and meet people with a light heart, because in her imagination she already has love. Strangely, or not so strangely, this makes her incredibly attractive. She's giving off a vibe of confidence and happiness. People notice. Within that month, a friend introduces her to a kind man named Alex at a gathering. Instead of clinging to him out of need, she interacts playfully, already feeling loved inside. Alex is intrigued by Caroline's positivity, and the two start dating. Rather than anxiety, will he be the one? Caroline continues her practice of feeling that she is loved and lovable, and thus she doesn't pressure the relationship. It naturally blossoms. In a short time, they fall in love, and Caroline realizes one day that the inner state she cultivated has become an outer reality. She no longer wants love desperately. She is living in love. This example demonstrates how moving from desire to fulfillment internally creates the space for the desire to manifest. Caroline let go of craving by satisfying it in imagination and being, which in turn drew the real deal to her. The vibration of having modern manifesting talks often refer to vibration or frequency, basically the mood or state you're in. The vibration of wanting something is quite different from the vibration of having it. Wanting often feels tense, like a reach, sometimes tinged with anxiety or impatience. Having feels relaxed, grateful, and peaceful. You can try this out now. Think of something simple you have right now, like a phone or a favorite book. Feel the natural, easy sense of, yes, it's mine. Now think of something you really want but don't have yet, like a dream home or ideal job. Observe the feeling, likely a mix of hope, but also a tad of strain or wistfulness. Our aim with the law of assumption is to shift into the feeling of, yes, it's mine, even for things not yet seen in the physical. This is not delusion. It's training your energy or consciousness to align with the outcome you desire. One reason this works is psychological. When you stop pining and start feeling fulfilled, you remove mental and emotional blocks like desperation, fear, and self-sabotage. Your mind becomes clearer and more creative. You start to notice opportunities and take inspired actions that you previously, in a state of lack, might have missed or lacked courage to pursue. Another reason is metaphysical. Many believe that consciousness is what reality is made of, so embodying a state actually resonates with and attracts experiences of a similar tone. It's like tuning yourself to a radio station. Become the frequency of I have this, and you pick up the signal of that reality. Letting go of the how and when, moving into the state of being, also means releasing the obsession with how and when your desire will come. When you want, you often micromanage, Should I do this? When will it happen? What if it's late? This ironically sends the message of not having. When you assume you have it, you can relax about the details. It's the difference between a person who has ordered dinner at a restaurant and trusts it's being prepared versus someone who is starving and has no idea if food will come. If you placed your order, set your intention, and you feel it's being taken care of, you can enjoy the conversation at the table meanwhile. This trust doesn't breed laziness, it breeds wisdom. You're still attentive to life, but you're guided by intuition rather than panic. You might suddenly feel a nudge to call an old colleague, leading to a job offer, or to visit a new place where you meet a friend or opportunity, or to start a project that develops into something lucrative. These nudges come more easily when you're not fixated on lack, one with your desire. Often when we deeply desire something, we inadvertently put it on a pedestal, seeing it as separate from us, above us. Moving to the state of being collapses that separation. You become one with your desire in consciousness. If you desire wealth, think of yourself as already wealthy, in ways beyond just money perhaps, wealth in friendships, talents, etc. If you desire love, start to generate love from within and see yourself as a source of love. By doing so, you stop chasing and start attracting. One simple way to shift from wanting into being is to practice gratitude in advance. Gratitude is the emotion of having received. When you feel thankful for something as if it's already yours, you naturally assume it's yours and you relax. For example, each morning you might envision your goal and inwardly say, "Thank you for this accomplished dream." This attitude of pre-thanks immediately places you in the state of fulfillment rather than lack. You stop begging and start appreciating, which magnetizes your desire to you even faster. When you maintain this state, you'll notice you don't feel the desperate pull of desire. Instead, you feel a calm assurance. Ironically, this often leads to detachment. You're not obsessing over the outcome every minute because in your heart you know it's done. That detachment is not giving up. It's the relaxed confidence that allows the desire to come to you. Guided practice, from wanting to having. This practice is about transforming a current strong desire from a feeling of lack to a feeling of embodiment. 1. Acknowledge the desire. Identify one desire you feel intensely wanty about, something you may have been yearning for strongly. It could be a relationship, a certain amount of money, a health outcome, recognition, anything. Acknowledge it plainly. I really want. Feel the truth of that, and also feel the tension or longing that comes with it. 2. Measure the gap. Gently measure the gap between where you feel you are and where you want to be. Sometimes it helps to rate your sense of having it on a scale of 1 to 10. Maybe right now it's a 2 out of 10. I feel like I have it. The gap is the place where all that wanting energy resides. We're going to fill that gap with imagination and being. 3. Create a fulfillment image. Close your eyes and imagine, not the process of getting it, but a moment after you got it, where the desire is already fulfilled and you're simply enjoying it, or even have gotten so used to it that it feels normal, but wonderful. If it's a dream job, maybe imagine yourself a few months into it, walking into your office, greeting colleagues cheerfully, feeling proud and settled. If it's health, imagine waking up in the morning feeling vibrant and doing something you love, maybe a hike. Relish the ease in your body. If it's a romantic partner, imagine a quiet evening at home together, perhaps cooking or watching a movie, feeling that deep companionship. Make it a scene of normalcy and having your wish, not the fireworks of getting it, but the warmth of living it. 4. Step into having. Now bring in all your senses and step into that scene. Breathe as that version of you. Notice how your heart feels, light, content, how your body feels, relaxed, energized. Soak in the feelings of satisfaction, gratitude, and peace. In this mental scene, there's no longing, only living. If stray thoughts of, "but I don't have it yet," come, gently set them aside and focus back on the now of the imaginal scene. Use inner words if helpful, like, "This is wonderful," or "I'm so thankful to be here." Stay with it until you feel your whole being sort of exhale into, "Ah, this is done." 5. Anchor the state. Find a simple phrase or even a single word that encapsulates your state of fulfillment. It could be, "Thank you," or "It's done," or "I am successful, healthy, married," etc. Something present tense and affirmative. While still in that relaxed, fulfilled feeling, mentally repeat the phrase a few times, letting its meaning sink in. This will be your anchor. Anytime in daily life you feel that old longing or doubt cropping up, you will recall this phrase to instantly remind you of the feeling of already having. 6. Release the wanting. As you open your eyes, symbolically imagine that you are leaving behind the old wanting self, like shedding an old coat and walking out as the fulfilled self. You might even say aloud, "I release the state of wanting and I embrace the state of having." Notice if your posture changed, your breath, your face. Often stepping into having brings a subtle smile or a sense of relief. 7. Practice daily being. For the next several days or week, whenever you catch yourself thinking, "I want desire so much," or feeling that pang, do a quick version of this exercise. Take a breath, say your anchor phrase like, "It's done, I have it," and summon a quick memory of that imaginal scene. Then proceed with what you are doing, carrying on as if it's handled. Essentially, refuse to dwell in "I want," and immediately convert it to "I have" inside me, and it's coming outwardly. It may help to actually limit or eliminate language like "I want" or "I wish I could" from your speech for a while. Replace with "I intend" or speak of it as certain in the future, or just don't talk about it if you feel you'll slip into whining. Keep the inner knowing as somewhat private, sacred thing, unless you have a supportive friend who understands this concept and can speak with you in that fulfilled tone. By persistently doing this, you shift your baseline state. The desire becomes less of an ache and more of a gentle knowing. Ironically, once you no longer need it desperately, that's often when it flows in. You have ceased to hold it away with neediness and have instead welcomed it with inner certainty. With this mastery of being versus wanting, you have come a long way. Now you can desire things without anxiety because you know how to assume them into being. For our final major concept, we turn to a technique that Neville called the most powerful, the art of revision. What if past events that still bother you could be rewritten in your mind, thus freeing you and even altering the course of your reality. In the next chapter, we explore how changing yesterday in imagination can change tomorrow. Chapter 6: Revision: Rewriting Your Past, Reshaping Your Future. Memory is a curious thing. We often think of the past as fixed and concrete, yet our memories of the past are malleable, selective, and deeply tied to our present feelings and assumptions. Revision is the practice of changing our perception of past events, imagining them the way we wish they had gone instead of how they actually went. This isn't about denial or living in a fantasy. It's a deliberate psychological and spiritual technique to alter the subconscious impressions those past events left, thereby clearing the way for a better present and future. Neville Goddard regarded revision as immensely powerful. He even suggested that if you master only one technique, let it be revision. Why? Because often it's our memories of failure, trauma, or disappointment that set the tone for what we expect in life. They become the stories we live by. I always get burned in love. I never get the breaks, etc. By revising key memories, we can literally change the story we believe about ourselves and thus change our trajectory. Think of revision as editing the script of your life after the scene has been played, knowing that somehow those edits will cause the next scenes to play out differently. Healing old wounds, let's say. Victoria had a painful relationship in the past. Her partner betrayed her trust, and they broke up in an ugly, tearful confrontation. That was 3 years ago, but Victoria still carries bitterness and fear. Every time she tries to date someone new, she finds herself on edge, suspicious it will happen again. She might not consciously think of her ex daily, but the memory is like a thorn in her heart that hasn't been removed. This is a perfect scenario for revision. Victoria decides to revise that breakup. Each night, she sits quietly and imagines the final conversation with her ex. But now she changes the story. In her revision, the partner is apologetic and kind, explaining calmly that though they must part ways, it was not Victoria's fault, and that she, Victoria, is worthy of a loyal love. She imagines herself in that moment forgiving him fully, even thanking him for the good times, and parting with mutual respect. In her imagination, they hug goodbye peacefully, and she feels a sense of closure and self-worth. She also revises scenes after. She imagines that soon after the breakup, she felt relieved, regained confidence, and even maybe met a new supportive friend or love interest who treated her wonderfully, restoring her faith in relationships. She does this night after night. At first it feels forced. Her mind argues, but that's not what happened. Yet she persists, treating it like a movie she can rewind and recut differently. Over time, something remarkable happens. The emotional charge around the old memory diminishes. When she thinks of her ex, it doesn't sting as much. In fact, it feels almost like a chapter that ended amicably. One day, she runs into this ex at a public event. In the past, this would have spiked her anxiety, but she finds herself genuinely at ease. They chat briefly and she wishes him well with a smile, shocking him a bit. He remembers her anger. Driving home, she feels free. Not long after, Victoria meets someone new and notices she isn't projecting suspicion onto him. She feels open to trust. In this new relationship, she experiences the honest, loyal love she had longed for. In a very real sense, by revising the past, she changed her future. The mechanics of revision. How can changing a memory influence outer circumstances? There are a few ways to look at it. Psychologically, by revising, you are reconditioning your subconscious. The subconscious doesn't have eyes to see what really happened. It accepts what you consistently imagine as true. When you flood it with a new version of an event coupled with positive emotions, forgiveness, understanding, etc., it eventually treats that as the reality. Thus, you shed the limiting beliefs or emotional baggage that the actual event created. Now you approach life with a fresher, more positive mindset, and consequently, you behave differently, make different choices, and attract different outcomes. Metaphysically, some believe time is not strictly linear and that all moments exist in a sort of eternal now. In that view, revising the past could actually alter the timeline in subtle ways. Perhaps you shift to a parallel version of reality where things did turn out more in your favor. This can get heady, but Neville himself suggested that if you successfully revise, you'll often find evidence that confounds what you thought happened. For instance, you remember a quarrel with someone, you revise it into a pleasant encounter. Later, that person might act as if no quarrel occurred, or even apologize out of the blue for being out of touch instead of the fight, suggesting your revision somehow affected their recollection or the continuity. Whether one takes the psychological or mystical angle or both, what's important is that revision can release you from the shackles of past events. It gives you agency to transform the meaning of anything that has happened to you. It's particularly useful for childhood experiences that instilled fear or low self-esteem, failures or mistakes that you keep replaying with guilt or regret, unpleasant interactions, big or small, that sour your mood or relationships, traumas that you have trouble moving past, though for severe trauma, revision can be combined with professional therapy. It's not a replacement for needed support, but a complementary tool. Revision is a form of forgiveness too, both of others and yourself. By rewriting the scene, you often end up forgiving and understanding everyone involved, which liberates you. The practice of revision. Neville likened revision to using the pruning shears of revision, trimming away dead or unwanted branches from the tree of life, so new growth can occur. Here's how you can practice it. 1. Choose an experience to revise. Start with something moderately significant, or even something from today that didn't go well. It's often good to practice on daily events at first. For instance, maybe you had an annoying email from a client or a spat with a family member, or you embarrassed yourself in some way. Or take a recent disappointment. If nothing comes to mind, scan the day or yesterday for any moment that made you feel bad, no matter how trivial. Ultimately, you can tackle bigger past events once you get the hang of it. 2. Get relaxed. Do this at night before sleep if possible, or any time you can close your eyes undisturbed for a few minutes. Breathe slowly and deeply to enter a relaxed, drowsy state, the state akin to sleep, which is ideal for impressing the subconscious. 3. Reimagine the scene. Recall the event clearly as it happened, just briefly, then start to play with it. How could this have gone better? Now rewrite the script. For example, if you had a quarrel, imagine instead the person said something kind or you both laughed and made up. If you got bad news, Imagine instead you got good news or a helpful solution arose. If you made a mistake, imagine you performed excellently or that the mistake turned out to be inconsequential and easily fixed. Alter dialogue, actions, outcomes. Make it a success or at least a peaceful resolution instead of a failure or conflict. Be creative, but also keep it within a realm that feels plausible to you. You don't have to imagine something wildly different, just an ideal version of that scene. 4. Loop and feel. Replay your revised version of the scene in your mind several times, like looping a short video clip. While doing so, generate the feelings you'd have if it truly went that way: relief, satisfaction, happiness, understanding, etc. For instance, if you imagine a fight turning into a hug and apology, feel the warmth and forgiveness. If you imagine acing an interview you actually flubbed, feel the pride and excitement of having done well. Loop it until it starts to feel familiar and true, at least emotionally. 5. End on the new scene. Stop on a high note in imagination. Don't go back and think about the real event. Just let the revised memory be the last impression. In fact, after doing this, it's good to distract yourself or go to sleep so that you don't immediately negate it by rehashing reality. Let the revised scene sink in as you rest or shift attention. 6. Watch for changes in the following days. Pay attention to any shifts related to that situation or person. Sometimes it's internal. You just feel differently, lighter when you think of it. Sometimes external. The other person might approach you differently, or some lingering issue resolves unexpectedly. If it's a daily minor event, you might just notice your mood improves. If it was a deeper past event, you might slowly notice you're not triggered by similar situations like you used to be. 7. Persistence if needed. Some events carry a lot of emotional charge and may need multiple revision sessions to fully let go. That's okay. You can return to the same memory multiple nights in a row, each time reinforcing the new version. Alternatively, you could try different angles. One night, revise the core event. Another night, revise your reaction afterwards. Another, imagine positive consequences that came from it. With each pass, it should feel easier and more natural to think of that occurrence in a new light. Many people find nightly revision of the day to be a transformative habit. At bedtime, review the day. Any part that didn't go how you wish, imagine it did. This sets a tone for continuous improvement and often leads to remarkably smoother experiences as life sort of learns from your revisions. By practicing revision, you're exercising the ultimate freedom, the freedom to choose your reaction and meaning for every event, even after it happens. Over time, you'll notice fewer unpleasant branches growing on the tree of your life because you've been consistently pruning them in imagination. Instead, new healthy branches of experience flourish, reflecting the kinder, more empowering story you've been telling yourself. Conclusion: embracing your power, a new life ahead. We have traveled together through the landscapes of the law of assumption, from harnessing your inner speech to feeling your wish fulfilled, to living boldly from your desired end, polishing the mirror of reality, standing in the state of having rather than wanting, and finally revising the shadows of the past into light. Each chapter has been a step deeper into your own creative power. What lies ahead for you, dear listener, is a journey that continues beyond these words. You now have tools to navigate life with a sense of magic and authorship. You are the writer, director, and actor of your life's movie. Initially, these ideas might require conscious practice, like learning steps to a dance. But soon, they will become more natural. You'll find yourself automatically reframing a negative thought into a positive assumption, or pausing to imagine a solution rather than worry, or chuckling at how the world mirrors you and thus changing what you project. Mystical wisdom has been interwoven with practical actions here. This is deliberate. You are a bridge between heaven and earth, the spiritual and the material. Your imagination, heaven, creates your world, earth, and practicing these principles is how you align the two. Some days will be easier than others. Be gentle with yourself. This is not about never feeling upset or never encountering challenges. It's about knowing that even if you momentarily falter, you can always go within and reshape the clay of circumstances. Neville reminds us that you are already that which you want to be, and your refusal to believe this is the only reason you do not see it. So believe it. Embrace the vision of yourself as fulfilled, and let no doubt or external delay shake that knowing. The outer world might take time to catch up, but it surely will. As he also famously said, "An assumption, though false if persisted in, will harden into fact." Persist in your lovely assumptions until they solidify into the facts of your life. Before we part, I invite you to imagine one more scene, your own future. Picture yourself, perhaps a year from now, reflecting on all the changes you've made. See the smile on your face as you realize how far you've come. Maybe you are journaling in that future moment, writing about the wonderful experiences that unfolded because you applied the law of assumption. You write down successes that once were mere dreams. You describe how challenges became easier, how relationships became more harmonious, how opportunities appeared like magic. Feel the pride and gratitude in that future you. In this scene, perhaps you close your journal, take a deep breath, and speak softly to yourself, "I did it. I assumed the best and life responded in kind." Maybe you even help someone else now, explaining to them the secrets you have learned, guiding them as I have guided you. Let that future vision motivate you. Know that it is not far off at all. Each new assumption, each day lived from the end, each loving revision is bringing it to fruition. Your life is your art. With the knowledge you now possess, you can paint it in the colors of your choosing. If ever you feel uncertain, come back to these words. Come back to these practices. They are always here for you, like a trusted friend, a wise mentor, or a guiding star. I wish you all the blessings on your journey. May you assume wisely, love greatly, and live deeply. The world you experience will be the beautiful mirror of the wonderful states you occupy. Go forward now, and remember, the best is already within you, waiting to be assumed and expressed. And so, nothing is truly impossible for you anymore. Your imagined assumptions are the building blocks of your reality. Epilogue, a day living the law. Morning sunlight filters through your window as you awaken. Instead of immediately worrying or rushing, you take a gentle breath and remember that you are the creator of your day. Before your feet touch the floor, you deliberately assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled for the day ahead. You imagine walking through the coming hours with confidence and joy. Today will unfold in harmony, you affirm inwardly. Perhaps you have an important meeting or a personal goal to work on. You mentally rehearse it going well, feeling the satisfaction as if it's already accomplished. A calm smile warms your face. Your day has been set from the beginning with this clear, positive assumption. As you get ready, you pay attention to your inner speech. While showering and dressing, you catch a glimpse of your thoughts. Are they peaceful and encouraging? If a worry pops up, for example, what if I mess up in the meeting? You gently revise that thought on the spot. I am prepared and I will do great. On this mental diet, only supportive inner conversations are allowed. You drive to work and every red light or traffic delay you meet with a sense of, all is well, I'm right on time. The usual stressors simply roll off because you've assumed a state of calm achievement. You notice the world mirroring this ease. Drivers seem kinder, and you even find a closer parking spot than usual. Small synchronicities make you nod, knowing your inner state is already creating a smoother experience. At work, during the important meeting, you live from the end throughout. You speak and act as the successful person you intend to be, not from fear or doubt. When presenting your ideas, you imagine as though you've already impressed your colleagues, and indeed their faces soon reflect engagement. A question catches you off guard, but instead of panic, you hear your inner voice say, I can handle this, and you respond with confidence. The meeting ends with compliments and positive outcomes, exactly as you envisioned earlier. You take a moment of gratitude, internally saying thank you as if the success was destined, because in a way you know it was, thanks to your assumption. Midday, you encounter a challenge. An email brings some unwelcome news about a project delay. For a moment, old frustration rises. But today, you remember the mirror principle. Rather than reacting in anger, you pause and ask, what is this reflecting in me? How can I shift? You realize you've been harboring a bit of impatience about the project. So you take a brief walk, during which you consciously generate patience and trust that things will work out. You return and craft a thoughtful, solution-oriented reply. Sure enough, by late afternoon, another email arrives reversing the delay. Things are back on track. You smile, witnessing firsthand how changing your inner state helps smooth the external issue. In the afternoon, you also find a moment to daydream about a personal goal, a vacation you want, or a new skill you wish to learn. Instead of sighing, I wish I could, you close your eyes for a minute and assume it fulfilled. You feel the ocean breeze of that vacation, or imagine the pride of mastering that skill. You indulge in the feeling until it feels true and joyful. Then you continue your day, not yearning, but content, knowing you've planted a seed in the unseen that will sprout in its time. Evening comes as you wind down at home, you reflect on the day. Before sleep, you practice revision. You review any moments that were less than ideal, perhaps that flicker of frustration at midday, or a conversation where you felt shy. In the theatre of your mind, you rewrite them. You see yourself responding with complete poise and optimism. You imagine that conversation going smoothly, with you confident and the other person receptive. You feel the satisfaction and relief, as if it happened that way. These revised scenes are the final images the subconscious sees before you drift into slumber. As you fall asleep, you wrap yourself in the feeling of a day well lived and a life moving in the direction of your dreams. You might whisper an affirmation like, "I am blessed, and all my desires are fulfilled," letting those words lull you into deep sleep. You know that overnight, the seeds you planted in consciousness will take root more firmly. This is a day living the law of assumption. Not every day will be perfect, but you now have the tools to continuously mold your experiences. By engaging your imagination, guiding your inner speech, sustaining the feeling of your wish fulfilled, responding to life's mirror with wisdom, embodying your desires, and revising missteps, you become the master sculptor of your destiny. One day lived like this flows into another, and soon momentum carries you into a truly transformed life. People around you start to notice the change in you. They might comment on your calm confidence or the good luck you're having. Little do they know it's not luck at all, but your consciously chosen assumptions bearing fruit. Opportunities that once seemed out of reach now appear readily. Challenges that used to overwhelm you now become chances to demonstrate your inner mastery. You realize that what changed was you, and the world simply followed. This fills you with a quiet pride and an unshakable faith. You are no longer a spectator of life, but the author of it, co-creating each day with the power of your mind and spirit. And so, nothing is truly impossible for you anymore. Your imagined assumptions are the building blocks of your reality. Thank you for listening, and may your every wish be fulfilled.